Okay, so in order to, our objective today is we have a lot of vocabulary that's associated with these two-way frequency tables, and it's not just two-way frequency tables this data is associated with, or these vocab, but it's going to be kind of the basis of everything we talk about. So our objective today, let's see, what do we write down there? To understand quantitative versus categorical data, and to understand and use two-way frequency tables. So understand quantitative, lots of T's, versus categorical data. Understand and actually create two-way frequency tables. Okay, so let's talk about some vocabulary. Let's talk about what is quantitative data. The word I want you to think of when you hear quantitative is the word quantity. If you're asked about a quantity, you're talking about data in numbers. Okay, so this is numerical data. Numerical data would be considered quantitative data. So the number of siblings, we had 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or more, that's quantitative. And then the information I got from you was also quantitative. Each person gave me a vote, and we were able to count up those votes, okay? The next word is categorical. Now, categorical has a second name. It's also known as qualitative. So there's two words to think about when you hear categorical / qualitative. Sorry. Categorical sounds like categories. And qualitative sounds like qualities. Qualities, or you could think of characteristics. These are not represented by numbers, right? These are words, okay? So for categorical or qualitative data, it's data that cannot be expressed using numbers. In other words, what's your favorite color isn't 3. Your favorite color is blue. It's a quality, it's a category, okay? So that's the big difference between quantitative numbers and qualitative / categorical words, all right? Now we can still gather data on them, right? We can still gather data. Okay, so frequency table. And the key word that I want you to remember with frequency is, or frequency table is, frequency means how often. Okay, so that's all that a frequency table is answering the question of, is how often. Chris, you with me?
Yes.
Okay, just checking. So frequency table shows how often each item occurs. In a set of categorical data. Okay. So that leads us to the two-way frequency table. Okay, so what do you think two-way frequency table means? Think back to that video that you saw, and he had presented a two-way frequency table. Brian?
Kind of like you take data on like two different subjects, kind of like male and female.
Okay, yeah. You have two groups of people answering two or more questions. And that would be your two-way frequency table. Okay, so let's, everybody, can I switch? Are we good? Yep, okay. So a two-way frequency table he's revving up for his day. It's the idea behind here is a data set. So a set of data. Data is just a way of saying values. A data set that has two categorical variables. Okay. Now, what's great about a frequency table is we can look at it, we can take that information, we can manipulate it, we can change it into percents, we could create fractions out of it, we could try to create information with the information from that data set. You know, looking at the guys versus the gals in Who Wants to Watch the Game, and then taking that information and using that as the model for an entire population. Okay, so they use that sample to do that. All right, so let's visit one. Just for a moment, let's talk about, I'm going to give you some words, and your job is to tell me whether we have categorical. So something that's measured in non-numbers. That would be categorical. So here's your choices. Yep. Temperature, weight, height, color. Which of these can you not measure in numbers? Chris? Color. So this would be considered a categorical group. Okay, so categorical data would be color, because I don't have numbers that goes with the answers I get. I'm going to get words. Okay. All right, let's look at, I'm going to give you 3 words. And we're going to look for some relationship. So large, medium, small, like you're shopping. And let's do, oh no, let's do a different color. How about 120 square feet, 130 square feet, and 140 square feet. So on each of these, our job is to try to figure out what kind of data is this. Is it categorical or qualitative? Okay, so large, medium, small. What would we consider that? Categorical or qualitative? Categorical. I mean quantitative, I'm sorry. Okay, so again, I heard somebody say categorical, and why would it be categorical? Allison? It doesn't have numbers associated with it, it's just words. So this would be considered categorical. Okay? And then 120 square feet, 130 square feet, 140 square feet. By the way, what kind of answers would those be for? What kind of answers, Maggie?
Area.
Some sort of area. It could be surface area, it could be regular area of two-dimensional shapes, okay? Now, would we consider those categorical or I get my words wrong, quantitative? Okay, and this is quantitative because quantitative deals with numbers, okay, and those are actual numbers. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about a situation in which we would use have to use a frequency table, a generic frequency table, because again, I can do statistics with numbers. I can do mean, median, mode, okay? I can figure out the range of the data. I can figure out the, I could do a bell curve of that data. I could do all sorts of mathematical manipulations with quantitative data. But with categorical data, I don't have the same luxury to do that. So what we're going to do is use a frequency table, and then what the frequency table does is it brings numbers to our words, and then we can start seeing if we can figure out some things we can do, all right? So let's say we polled a whole bunch of students and we said, what are the ways that you get to school? So this is, you're including this in your notes. And so we start asking around, and just for purposes, I'm going to use the example that they have in the textbook. And you talk to one kid, and the kid says, oh, I take the bus. And another kid says, I take a car. Another kid says, I walk. Another kid says, my mom drives me, so I take the car. Another kid, my mom drives me too, car. Another one says, I'm in a carpool, car. Another one says, hey, I take the bus. And then somebody else says, nope, I walk. I walk. I walk. I'm not asking you guys. I'm giving you the data from here. Somebody says, I take a bus. I take a bus. Car. Bus. Bus. Walk. Bus. Car. Bus. Car. Now, just to kind of give you a background, this publishing company exists in the East Coast. So the modes of transportation for the kids in the East Coast may be different than they are here. My sister lives in a very rural area close to Yale University. They don't ride their bikes because the road that they can travel on is a 2-lane highway, and people go very fast. So it's not very safe for kids to be riding their bikes. Okay? It's a little gnarly walking, to be honest with you. So their modes of transportation may be different than ours because we aren't in highways in our neighborhoods, whereas other people do have that. New York, I don't think I would ever want to ride a bike in that area, other than maybe in the suburbs, but even then, you never know. And with weather, too, they're going to have some other issues. All right, now, when I look at data like this is very confusing. So that's when we decide, let's do a frequency table of this. And so we've got two ways, or two titles we're going to have. We have ways to get to school. And then we have frequency. Now, frequency, just like the one that we kind of did as a warm-up, sometimes is written first with the hash marks and then a number, and so create another final column for that, or they'll do hash marks and then get the number at the end of it. So we're going to do it that way on this one. So what were the modes of transportation getting to school?
Bus, car, walk.
We had bus, and we had a car, and we had a walk. So as I read through my list, I just make tally marks. So let's see, bus, one, car, oops, bus, car, walk, car, car, let's see, car, bus, walk, 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 bus, bus, car, bus, bus, walk, bus, car, bus, car. My goodness. Okay. That sounds like maximum effort going on right now. So, what's the frequency for bus?
8.
And for the car?
7.
And for the walking? Okay. And we have that. So, the numbers that we got for each category was by counting. Grouping them in fives makes the counting faster to do. So that's a really good habit to kind of get those bundles. And then what would be true about the sum of the data in this table? What would be the sum? So total would take these three numbers and add them together. So we would get a total of 20. It's when we add that notion of total, now we can start doing some math with this. We could figure out what percent of the students went by bus, what percent walked, what percent had a car ride of some sort, okay? So let's talk about how do we actually come up with a two-way frequency table. And we already talked about that. Now it's not one categorical data group, it's two. So we got two variables going on here. The one we saw, are you going to the game, yes or no? Are you a boy or are you a girl? So we had two-way category. Yes or no? Going, not going? Male or female, okay? So for us, all right, so we have a student, she asked 40 randomly selected people, okay? And she asked them if they preferred dogs, cats, or other pets. Those were the only two name choices were dogs and cats, and then everything else fell into other, okay? And then she recorded the gender of each student. So we've got type of cat, animal you like, are you a guy or a gal, okay? To see if maybe there was some correlation between, do guys like cats better, do the girls like dogs better, is there no relationship whatsoever between who likes what, okay? And the results she comes up with have to do, she put in a two-way frequency table. So this is what her table looked like. If you don't have titles in your tables are actually meaningless. And this is the same thing we're going to learn as we learn to solve some specific types of word problems. We're going to use tables. Without these titles to these tables, I have no idea what I'm looking at. All right, so first off, we're going to have gender going down, and so that's girl, boy, and what we're going to add is that third column, total, or I guess I should say row. Okay, that's going to be very important for us. Okay. Next, we're going to put our other title up here, and this would be preferred pet. And our three groups were dog, cat, other, and then we're also going to have a total on this one. Okay. And here's the information that she gathered from these 40 people that she talked to. There were 8 girls that preferred dogs. And there were 7 girls that preferred cats. And there was 1 girl who preferred other types of pets. The boys she spoke to, 10 of them liked dogs, 5 of them liked cats, 9 of them liked other animals. Okay. Now, what we can do in these total columns, we can get how many people like dogs, we can get how many people like cats, and we can get how many people in total like other animals. So let's do that. So Alex, how many people like dogs?
How many people like dogs? 18.
Okay. And then how many people like cats? Allison.
12.
And Josh, how many people like other types of animals?
10.
Okay. And then let's look over here. How many girls did they speak to? That's interesting on this one. Molly, how many girls altogether?
16.
Okay. And how many boys altogether? Kristen?
24.
Okay. Now, what's going to go in that bottom right corner? Brian.
40.
And the number 40 represents what?
The total for the total number of people that were surveyed.
Okay. So everyone who surveyed got a vote and everyone voted. It's not like when I say how many did this, how many did that, and then half the class doesn't raise their hand. Every one of those 40 people participated. So the number of people that were in the sample should be the number that you get when you add either a row in the total, the 18 plus 12 plus 10. It also adds in the column. So the types of animals add up to 40, and the number of people add up to 40. Okay? So now that you can look in this, you can say, hey, was her data evenly distributed? Did she ask the same number of guys and gals? Okay, and the answer was the data was not evenly distributed because she didn't. So we can write that down. So data not evenly distributed. As more boys were surveyed than girls. And, you know, sometimes there's things like you go, I'm just going to survey my first period class or my PE class, and you may have a particular heavy boy class or particularly heavy girl class. My geometry class has got more girls than it does boys. It's just kind of how it works out. So that's when you have data can be imbalanced. So while it looks, when you look at this chart, it looks very strongly that boys like what kind of animals?
Dogs.
Dogs or other, okay? And we don't know what the other is, okay? But notice how girls are not into others, are they? They like dogs or cats. But we also had 8 more boys in the survey. If we took out those 8 boys, would their scores end up being close to the scores of the girls? We don't know. We can't do that. So that's something when you're analyzing data, you need to look at distribution. Was the sample evenly distributed amongst the 2 groups? Now, we don't care about the dogs, the cats, and the other animals. We're looking at the groups of people that were surveyed. That's the important group, okay? Which pet is preferred most? And tell me why. According to this chart, which pet would be preferred most and why?
Dog.
Okay. So I hear dogs. And why would you say that dogs are most preferred? If dogs are most preferred, then they would have the highest total in their column. So we have 18 versus 12 versus 10. There were more people, not just boys or girls, but people, them together, who selected dogs than cats or other pets. So again, when I'm doing any kind of constructing a frequency table, number 1, I got to make sure I get all my labels in. Notice how the breakdown was over here with gender being at a lower level than preferred pet. Notice that this box separates gender and dog. Okay, so all that labeling is to kind of the same pattern that you guys are going to be using when you create your own. All right? And then how you can get all the totals. And the totals represent different things. Over on the light blue side at the far right, that's the totals for girls and boys that were surveyed. The bottom is the total in the light purple, the number of each type of pet that was preferred. Okay? And then the grand total in the bottom right corner should be the total number of people that were surveyed. And that usually is given to you in the problem. Now, I'll stop here.